Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is a complex and sensitive topic, so please be mindful of this going into the interview. The information shared in this podcast is based on research, expert insights, the available data. It's not a substitute for professional medical or legal advice. If you or someone you know is affected by FASD, I encourage you to seek guidance from qualified professionals and support networks. Now, my goal here is to raise awareness and promote understanding in a respectful and informative manner. Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, or FASD as I'll call it from this point on, is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition caused by prenatal alcohol exposure. It affects brain development, learning, behaviour, and overall health, often leading to challenges with memory, attention, emotional regulation, and social skills. I think a lot of you are seeing a lot of tics that are very similar to what this podcast is about. So because most individuals with FASD do not have distinct facial features, it is often called an invisible disability and can be misdiagnosed or overlooked. Now, early diagnosis and informed support can significantly improve outcomes and help individuals reach their full potential. Now, FASD is recognised as the leading preventable cause of birth defects and developmental disabilities worldwide. Now, something that we need to note is that whilst they say it's the leading preventable cause, it's not always preventable. We have to take into consideration certain situations like domestic violence situations and so forth. 50% of Australian women do experience an unplanned pregnancy. So this is increasing the likelihood of alcohol-exposed pregnancies, which is why we're talking about this. Individuals with FASD are twice as likely to experience suicidal ideation in adolescence compared to those without FASD. Again, something we all have discussed when it comes to ADHD, autism, ADHD. In Australia, FASD affects an estimated 2 to 4% of the Australian population. We're going to see it obviously similar in other countries. It makes it more common than autism or cerebral palsy. Now, despite this being the case, being the most common preventable non-genetic development disability, FASD remains underdiagnosed and poorly understood across health, education and justice systems. And why this is the case is the reason that we really need to talk about this today. Christine Brooks is a committed advocate for individuals affected by FASD. She currently serves as Director of NOFASD, or it's NOFASD Australia, leveraging her professional expertise and personal experience to advance her mission. As a foster parent to a teenager with FASD, Christine is dedicated to increasing awareness and enhancing support services for individuals with this condition. With over 40 years of experience as a classroom teacher, she's shifted her focus towards educating educators and community members about FASD. She's aiming to improve understanding and accommodations within educational settings in particular. Her ongoing work in advocacy, training and public education reflects her commitment to the well-being of people impacted by FASD. Now, I was extremely privileged to have NOFASD provide a stall at the recent Neurospicy event, and from what I hear, some really good connections were made with some of the other stall holders, which is just exactly what I wanted. You'll understand why this is so important when you hear our discussion. Now, with all that covered, enjoy the interview with Christine, and look, if the discussion raises some questions, then do please reach out to a local service, or look, if that's a bit too sudden, if it's not possible, contact myself and I'm happy to facilitate or just chat. You can also come onto the private Facebook page, and that's a private and inclusive and supportive network that you'll find on there. Thanks, and let's get on with it. Oops, I also forgot to say, throughout the interview you're going to hear birds in the background. I can't do anything about that. Just so you know, they are lorikeets. They are cheeky and absolutely beautiful, and I don't even hear them anymore. What I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of sort of podcasty things that relate, or radio interviews and stuff that sort of relate to neurodivergences, often very
Stilted almost, like a...
yes, and very from the medical point of view, the psychologist's point of view, it's all very dry.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, which is why I get called to do a lot of things, not because I'm a great speaker by any means, but because I've got lived experience.
Yes. Every episode I seem to go back to this concept because I'm just sort of hyper-focused on the moment is storytelling, being so important, and what's missing from science and science journalism, science and expressing and talking about science. It's missing the story. It's missing the fact that we've evolved to take on information in a storytelling way, and
absolutely,
and that's completely gone. Which I think why we're in such a state at the moment. There hasn't been enough of that going on, and you just get all these illiterate. And not their fault, but science literate.
Yes, that's it.
People,
yes. Yes, and that's why the Indigenous people are so good, because they pass on all their messages through stories.
My family's got a history with this, which I've been a little reticent to look into, because my grandparents had some kids come down and live with them for a while, and I'm very concerned with what I'll find out. I've got pictures, photos of them. I've got some, what do you call them? Boomerangs with their name on it. And I thought, they probably passed on by this stage. It was so long ago.
This is when you were young?
No, probably even before me. Would have been late 60s,
so
maybe.
They weren't part of your childhood?
No,
okay.
No.
Yeah.
I was really lucky. I understand that now. That when I did history in year 12, we learnt Aboriginal studies. I don't know how the hell that managed to happen, but the teacher was very passionate about that. He had, he used to take us to his house and play Archie Roach, and we learnt so much, and that understanding has informed everything in my life since then. I need to find him and thank him. Absolutely thank him. But that's what I wish everyone else had got this experience as well, and it should be. I think we should be teaching the language at school.
Yes,
as well.
Oh, so much we should teach so much.
Yeah, because it's there's nothing negative, there's nothing bad about it. It's just it would bring us closer to country. Yeah. Even the concept of country is not understood. I know. Did
you watch the Kimberley on iView? It's just come on last week.
No, I've been waiting to watch that.
Watch it. It's fantastic. Again, that love of country and how that you belong to the river doesn't belong to you. And
yes,
it's lovely, and living now. A lot of our Aboriginal friends, they've enriched our lives so much.
Well, they could do a hell of a lot more, and they could enrich their own lives as well if it was part of. And again, I use this word zeitgeist a lot.
Yes.
If it was part of our zeitgeist, that it was informative, fun, interesting, all those things were part of our cultural conversation.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be.
Embedded,
there would be none
really
of this. Embedded. The pride of, I'm on this country.
I know.
This country that, by pure luck, as all of us were, including the Indigenous people, we're here by pure luck. Anyway.
Okay, we could talk all day, Dan. I can see this could happen.
I know. That's cool.
Great. Yeah.
So, you took part in the event that I had, the Neurospicy event.
I loved it. Yes,
and I just wanted to thank you for actually showing up, because you had no you didn't know who I was.
No, we knew nothing. What I mean? But we had our little stand, our NOFASD stand, and we had a great response from a lot of people interested.
That's what I wanted to find out, because I didn't get a chance to ask.
It was really good. We were very happy with the number of people that came up, didn't know it, took brochures, asked us about coming and doing some training for them, that sort of thing. So that was great.
Oh, really?
And then I don't know whether I did the wrong thing. I don't know whether you even remember, but when the psychologist was talking,
right,
and I said...
Yes, absolutely, it was great.
I just said to Simone, my colleague who was in there, I can't let this go without saying something.
Absolutely.
It's 2.5 times more prevalent than autism.
Yeah.
It needs to be brought up. How come there's a psychologist that isn't aware of it?
Yeah.
And good on her, she said, I'm not aware. Well, she didn't say those words, but I'm not aware of it, and I'll come out. And she came out after the show and talked to us and took some of our information.
Isn't that brilliant?
And I thought, she could have said, oh, look, it's not... Because I've run universities and said, you want to find out more information about FASD. Yeah. Oh, we do ADHD and autism. We don't need to do that.
We don't need to do that.
And, well, that's the response we get often. And so it was so good to have somebody brave enough to say, well, actually, inform me. I need to know more. So good on her.
Well, the fact of the matter is we talked about neurodivergence there's a list that...
That's right.
You know... Yeah. I keep no... What do you... How do you say it?
FASD.
NOFASD.
NOFASD is the organisation I work for.
Yes, I know. Yeah, FASD.
Yeah, and FAS. How can you... FAS?
I get Fonzie.
You're going to say the wrong thing. You can just say fetal alcohol spectrum disorder.
Oh, that's going to be even worse.
Okay, well, just leave it blank and I'll just fill you in. And I'll say FASD.
Well, isn't it interesting that she was talking about, what other elements of neurodivergence do you, happen when you're speaking to people? And she listed a whole lot of them.
Yes.
So the fact that that's not prevalent enough is concerning to me, because we're talking about service providers that people will be going to thinking maybe they're autistic or ADHD, but they're not. And if they're not even aware, if they're not able to understand, then shit, what's going to happen?
I mean, well, that's what our work's all about.
Yeah.
It's all around the stigma. It's around the stigma, the lack of education.
Yeah.
We can talk about this on the thing. I mean, it really is one of those things where probably ADHD was 12 years ago.
Yes. Okay.
We're about there.
Yep.
And 70% of people with FASD also have ADHD.
Have or have been diagnosed? Surely there's a difference in the numbers there.
Well, there probably is. That's a really good question, and I cannot answer it.
Well, you can't, because
we know that the FASD is probably the core reason
that
they've got some neurological problem, damage.
Yes, and that is a similar thing, that there's a lot of correlations between all the autistic kids that I used to look after back in the 90s had other intellectual disabilities. And even back then I assumed, because the only autistic kids and adults I looked after all had intellectual disabilities, because they're the only ones who ever got diagnosed.
Intellectual disabilities or just like a brain-based disorder?
Or brain disorders, various things that had nothing to do with autism itself.
Yes, I know what you mean.
They were just tied in
comorbid.
Comorbid. So that's a common thing that I used to come across.
It is a common thing, yes. So there's a lot of crossovers.
There is.
Yes, but there are also differences. And you can't just say, he's got autism, or he could have FASD, No, not good enough. You have to be really specific and say he has autism or he has FASD, and these are the strategies we're going to use to support that person.
Yes, yep.
FASD. Don't worry. Just wink at me and I'll just fill it in with the word.
Now, as I was reading, you were a teacher for a very long time.
We're not on.
Oh yeah, of course we are. Yeah. This is the way I like it, conversational.
Even.
Yeah, that's what I like. I don't want it to be.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I said earlier I'll go start it, but don't worry. Anything that you don't want put in there, But no, this is the way it works better when it's not so in your face, I think.
Yeah.
And also if I start making really like, we're going to talk right now.
Yeah.
I think you can sort of freeze up a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's much better to do it.
Let's keep going.
So you were a teacher for decades.
I am still a teacher. I'm just not a practicing teacher.
Not a practicing teacher. Oh, that's interesting.
Always
I love
a teacher. I taught for 40 years and I will always be a teacher.
Wow.
I'm just not registered as a teacher anymore.
How did FASD come into all this then? At what point did it show up while you were teaching or outside?
No, well, we brought... the school sent me up to the Northern Territory, and we met this beautiful family who lived next door to us, and a little girl came into our lives who attached herself to me. It was an instant bond. It was extraordinary. So she had a pretty traumatic early childhood.
Yes.
Anyway, the auntie was looking after her and a couple of her siblings, and we came back to Melbourne. And then when we were back in Melbourne and I went back to my school, I just couldn't stop thinking about her and the hardships and so forth. So I contacted Auntie, who had been very close to, and said, would she like to come down to Melbourne and come to school with me for a term?
Yep.
So now this all sounds very simplistic. I can tell you it took over an year to organise. Yeah. You can imagine, because it wasn't just, she'll take this child. Mm-hmm. So we went through all the right avenues and so forth. Yep. And it was all sorted, and she came down and she spent a term with us and came to school with me. And during that period, I knew she'd had early childhood trauma, so we were expecting some behaviour issues, which we saw, some bit of challenging pushback behaviour.
But you hadn't heard of FASD
I had
yet?
never heard of FASD.
Okay.
Now, probably somewhere in my line I had heard about it, but I had never been given any professional development. And as a school teacher, professional development is very much part of our school life.
Yes.
And I had done numerous learnings on autism and ADHD and all sorts of other areas, but not FASD. So this little one was in my life, and she wanted me to teach her at the time. So one night, after I've taught hundreds of children how to tell the time, brought all the little clocks and everything home from school, sat down with her. She's a bright little button, picked up the time like that. She could just work it all out. We went through it all. I thought, oh, that was easy. Fantastic. Next morning, 7 o'clock at breakfast, I said, what's the time? She looked up and she said some random thing like 22:07. No idea. And I thought, now, this is not trauma. There is something else here. Right. I had taught long enough to know there's something else going on in this brain.
Something to do with memory and...
Yes. I mean, she clearly knew it, and then she didn't know it.
Yeah.
And
that's
just really hit me. That was my real turning point. Yeah. So I went to school, and I was telling my colleague, the one that came to the evening, and she said, oh, could it be FASD? And I said, FASD? Well, I couldn't get to the computer fast enough. Wow. And as soon as I started reading about it, I thought, that's it. And I knew she'd had... I knew her past. I knew that she had had a mother with prenatal alcohol exposure. Yeah. So that was one of the main things. Okay. I'd never just put all the pieces together. So I decided that this child had FASD, but the pathway to diagnosis is very long. The more our interaction grew, and I saw her behaviour and all the other areas of learning and her areas of struggle socially and the dysmaturity, all the things that go with it. I knew she had FASD. Right. But we had to have her diagnosed, and that didn't happen for many years. It's not an easy thing to do, getting a diagnosis.
Sounds like there's a lot of people involved. Even when I was looking at what we'll talk about later, there seems to be a lot more. And they're trying to... We'll talk about that, I guess, about how they're going to help fix that. Yeah. So that's how and then, of course, I started ringing people and looking for support. And I was so, I suppose obsessed is the word, about FASD as a disorder, as a brain-based disorder. It just fascinated me that there's over 400 different symptoms or characteristics, if you like. Yeah. And each child presents differently, depending on what period of the pregnancy the mother drank, how much she drank, what her age was, what her health was like. All these other factors came into it. Yeah. And so our little one's the eldest of 6, and each of them, I would suspect, has FASD, not diagnosed, but each one presents very differently. Yes, of course.
So it became a real interest in my mind. So then I was asked to join the board.
But you had an association.
Of course.
That's what I mean. He was there. This often happens, doesn't it?
Well, my learning was supporting her. Yeah. But I was also fascinated with the whole... I didn't know enough about it, and I could not get more information. So then I was asked to join the board, and now it's sort of my life work.
You're a director now. What is that? What's the difference? What does that mean as a director?
We became... we were no longer... now, this is the part you're going to have to edit out because I'll get it wrong. We changed over to becoming a company from just a charitable organisation. Right. We're still a not-for-profit, but it's just a lot of paperwork, to be honest.
So you're a peak body, though?
Yes, we're the peak body. Yes, absolutely. In Australia, NOFASD, which stands for the National Organisation for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, is the peak body for advocating, for training, for information, for all sorts of areas that supporting people. We run helplines and support groups for FASD in Australia. So
part of my actual job is that I help with sort of updating of qualifications for various, like for me it's the transport and logistics industry and aviation, maritime. So we bring in various experts if we're going to be updating some sort of qualification to bring it into the modern world and that sort of thing. Are you ever called into those sorts of things where you're helping update sort of education standards?
We wish we were. No, but we work particularly in Western Australia with the Justice Department. Yeah. We've worked, and it's ongoing, enormous support, educating the Justice Department about FASD. My personal goal is to educate educators because education is my area of of expertise. We work in the health sector.
The health sector, yes,
certainly
yes.
Do a
and
lot
that's what
of
I mean.
work.
The health sector is
we
where
do a lot of work with the health sector, and give them information. I personally have not been called in. We've had sort of supported particular people through court cases and things like that.
Okay.
So we have done that sort of work, yes.
But are there related qualifications that people can work through to get to this sort of work?
To work in the area of FASD? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a university course in WA.
And what's that called? The course itself, what is it? Is it literally to study specifically?
Yes, well, I guess it's part of a course, but it's a certificate course.
Yep.
Again,
There you
that
go.
would be something you'd have to look up. That's just a little online course for
that's
teachers.
the one.
And it's allows people, psychologists and so forth who want to develop their qualifications and have another area that they know a lot about.
Okay, we're going to have to talk later about this. I need to get you onto and show you where you should be someone who gets called into these meetings where they're updating these things to provide context, understanding, expertise. That's the sort of thing that should be happening.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we should.
Yeah,
yes.
That's interesting. It's all changed at the moment. So there's the people who are looking after, they're called Jobs and Skills Councils. They're taking over earlier work where it was just focused on that, but now it's becoming a much broader thing. So there's a lot more interaction with people in the industry or whatever industry it is to get connections and to, so that's going to be very interesting, I think.
Oh, my gosh,
we'll
yes, it does. That fascinates me, yes.
Now, before we move on a bit more about that side of things, I just wanted to mention that my son Henry has not, hopefully he won't listen to this, he hasn't cut his hair for 8 years, something like that.
Yep.
And so when we got into high school, problem, because they have a uniform. And so we had to go through that sort of process of getting him, and to their credit, they were great. He wears his hat all the time. On the photos, everything. Yep. Always wears his hat.
Yes.
Because it's very important to me. Like
Mighty girl, yeah.
like the beanie.
Yes.
But what fascinated me was that you were able to sort of facilitate a bigger change than what we've been able to do, which is now other kids have got able to wear beanies. They were able to wear them at school with the logos and everything like that.
It was a real... do you want me to explain the whole...
Oh my God, because I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to go to the school and talk to them about this.
I mean, I'm such an advocate for... Look, it's because I'm an educator and because I'm aware of FASD and how I really believe that every person living with FASD needs somebody there to be their advocate.
Yes.
We used to say their external brain, but we don't use that terminology anymore. But I am there that she can ring me at 2 o'clock in the morning and she takes photos of her eye and send them to me and say, why have I got this red spot in my eye?
Yes.
I'm the go-to person for anything.
Yeah.
That's what people with FASD need, just that backup support. That it doesn't matter what they do, you're going to be there to support them.
Yep.
So she was having some trouble at school because she really loved to wear her red beanie all the time.
Of course.
That was her security. That was her, what am I doing?
Proprioception. So it's and the feeling, the weight, the constriction on the absolutely.
So all of that was really important to her, and she wore it for day in day out for a year or 2 years.
Yep.
And of course, the school got a little bit irritated.
Of course,
there was this one child in uniform with this bright red beanie on all the time.
Yep.
So originally, the school wasn't so keen for me to go up and talk to the staff about FASD. They felt that maybe the whole of children would be starting to be diagnosed by the teachers. They were a bit worried. They suddenly thought, maybe they don't need to know about this.
Really?
Which is an attitude we often get. I have actually been to schools and offered to talk, and they said, we don't have kids like that at our school.
It's like sex ed, isn't it? It's like, oh no, we don't want to
don't talk
bring
about
it
it, or everybody might go mad.
Because they're never going to find out in their own way.
Well, let me say, wherever there is alcohol, there is FASD, and we know what a drinking culture we've got in Australia, so there is FASD everywhere. And there's estimated there's probably one child in every classroom with FASD.
Yep.
So she's left school now, went to a small school. So that, number one, is a lot easier to make changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once I got my message across, they invited me in and I did a number of full-day workshops with the staff. And full credit to them. They listened to what I was saying. Okay. They met her needs. They changed the environment to meet her needs. And I can't tell you how important that is.
I like a couch for sleeping and all this sort of stuff. It's just it should be the norm.
Of course. And I always said, if the child was in a wheelchair, what would you be doing?
Yeah,
You'd
that's
be
right.
setting up the ramps. You'd have the special toilets. You know, if she was blind, you wouldn't be saying to her, why can't you read the book? So let's think of it like that.
Yeah.
And let's say, what does this child need to do well?
Yeah.
And get on and enjoy school.
Within the confines of the classroom,
yes,
every single child will have specific
Absolutely.
needs that would mean that they just learn
Yes.
better and they become all those things. So it's not down to necessarily disabilities or disorders or anything like that. It just should be an educational given.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for a teacher, though.
Yes, it is. Good teacher wouldn't mind. And the thing is, though, Dan, FASD is a hidden disability.
Yeah.
If you met her, she's fantastic at football. She's funny, quick-witted, funny. She looks normal. She's a teenager. But what's going on in that brain is that she might be, well, she's 20 now, but a lot of the things she talks about are equivalent to a 10 or 11-year-old. So she's got this maturity.
Yes,
and she's really struggles with a lot of areas. Poor memory. You know, all those executive functioning skills are really, this is a very common problem, really struggling with a lot of that organisation, planning, thinking ahead, you know, taking care, getting places on time, all of those things. So I was delighted when she kept saying to me, they told me to take my hat off. Then the next thing she said, look, I've got a new hat. Everyone's got one. Oh. And the whole school had little black beanies with their little school logo on. And I just thought, what a great school. A small school so they could do it. But really, it wasn't...
Big schools could too.
It wasn't such a big deal.
No.
They weren't asking her to change. They were adapting.
That's so good. That's why I'm going to go and talk to the principal. And the concept of being able to even have a hat that's supplied, no one has to wear it all the time. It's an option they have.
Yes,
how wonderful would that be for my son to be not the only kid in the whole school wearing a bloody hat?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But I've always thought, let's pick our battles. I mean, you know, long hair or wearing a hat is not going to affect their academic, you know.
It helps.
Yeah, exactly. It supports them.
Yeah.
And if a child needs to sit on a particular chair, let's do it. What's the difference? And that's how I always ran my classroom.
Yeah.
I looked at each child. Some kids stood up and did their work. Some lay on the floor. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as we're getting through all our work, that was fine.
I think from our generations going back, I think it's been more that we've been told, you know, it's sort of, you know, seen and not heard. It's been very much conveyor belt, all that sort of stuff. So things have changed, and they also thought it was quite a hippie thing. Those schools are just ridiculous hippie schools when they're not being taught discipline.
Yes.
So the concept of discipline, I think, is obviously was very hard for me when I was in school.
Yeah.
And would be for other FASD kids. And
but there's discipline. And you know what? You don't have any discipline problems if you're meeting those child's needs.
No.
Because I've always said all behaviour is functional. It really is. So if a child's misbehaving, don't just keep trying to pull them into line. Look at what's triggering that.
Yep.
What's the reason? How can we turn it around? Can we meet halfway?
Yep.
Talk to the child. Let's sort it all out. And that's how I work with my daughter. She's, you know, she has issues and we say, okay, let's see if we can sort this out together. Keep it light. Keep it, you know, oh, come on, you haven't done that again. Oh, no, you spent your whole pay in one day. Oh, gosh, okay, what are we going to do about that? Have you got any solutions? And we handle it like that. So there's not that anger. Keep the anxiety low. You know, let's sort it out together.
I came out with what I think is a really good idea.
Good.
Listening to you talk about a particular example, one of the examples was off to go and clean your teeth, and on that journey from the lounge room to the bathroom, like a lot of ADHD people would experience as well, they got distracted. And it never happened. One of the things that people are scared at the moment is the whole concept of AI. But I think for neurodivergent people, it is going to be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I thought of that particular situation where it's about going from the lounge room to the bathroom, imagine having an AI facilitated tool and voice that checking where you are and it is able to detect where you are to say, by the way,
this is where
Bruce,
we're heading down the hallway.
Imagine that.
It would be fantastic.
Because you said you have to follow and you had to brush your teeth at the same time.
Well, once we, and I say we as my partner and I, you've got to remember she was with us for some while until this telling the time thing happened and everything started changing. We started educating ourselves. we suddenly changed the way, not suddenly, we changed the way we were managing her.
Yes.
We took away our expectations.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped telling her what she had to do, and we adapted it to meet her needs. It was quite a shift for us.
Oh, it was for us too. And it should be
when
for every
you've been-
parent.
Yes, but when you've been a teacher and you expect, okay, everyone line up, everyone lines
True,
up, you know, why aren't you
true,
lining
yep.
up, get in the line, da-da-da. I mean, you know, you do that for years and years and years. You expect people to do what you tell them.
Yeah, no,
when you say go and
yeah.
brush your teeth and then suddenly they're under the bed,
Yeah.
you know, you get a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
So then when I realised it wasn't because she couldn't do it, it wasn't because she wouldn't do it, she couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
And that's the big difference.
That's a really important concept.
That is a great term because
Yeah.
once you get that and really understand it,
Yeah.
then I'd say, time to brush our teeth. So I put my toothbrush and everything beside hers
Yeah.
and we would do it together.
Yeah.
So every little part of her day,
Yes.
we changed around to make it easier. And really her behaviour changed
Yeah.
incredibly. She wasn't constantly having to slide down the stairs backwards or
Yeah.
sensory
Yeah.
processing as it would, you know, the anxiety rose and everything, because we weren't having the conflicts. We weren't having the feeling that she wasn't achieving something, I was expecting something.
Yeah.
It was all just taken away.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the school did much the same. They would ring me when she was struggling.
Yeah.
I would go and pick her up. We'd have downtime, which might have lasted 3 or 4 days. And it started happening to the other kids in the
Okay.
school who were going through rough times because it was a boarding school. So
Right.
So
Okay,
they
yeah.
were away
Yeah.
from home. These
Yeah.
are kids from up top end.
Yes. Yeah.
And we would have 2 or 3 girls come and say we'd
Okay.
take them for weekends camping.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, kids that were going to be expelled, we'd take them for downtime for
Okay.
up to a week. You know, I do a bit of homeschooling, but an awful lot of nurturing.
Yes.
A lot
Yes, a
of
lot of nurturing.
de-escalating.
Yeah.
And then they would be ready to go back.
So going into adulthood, though, do you think there has been benefit
Oh.
for someone who hasn't? Like,
Yes,
we talk about this a
yes,
lot on the podcast,
yes.
is that I'm, diagnosed at 47, so I've got a lifetime of masking and being able to put on
Yeah.
the show, be able to go up and do an event.
Yes.
I've got some great walls that went up there that I had no idea what the hell was going on. I just did it.
You did it
you
well.
know.
You did it well.
And even now, I just I don't feel anything particularly about it. It's just I'm glad I got it done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a lot of struggles that if I had gone through an education or through a nurturing
Yeah.
home, it would have been so different for me. So it is going to be the same for a FASD adult.
I would say so without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I can say that from looking at all the families I know.
Yes. Yeah.
And even her family. Now, she's the eldest of 6.
Yeah.
And is the only one that's had the experience of this constant love, support,
Yes.
nurturing,
Yeah.
steady school life,
Yeah.
understanding school, understanding at home,
Yeah.
and just that whole... She understands that she's got FASD. She knows why.
That's great.
She's a great... I've taught her, because I'm not with her all the time,
Yeah.
how to advocate for herself.
That's
so
important.
that is so important when you're not there all the time. So, yes, her life is much easier. She's got a confidence about her
Yes.
that her siblings haven't got.
Yes. That's
She's
it.
made
yeah.
a massive decision to never touch alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an easy decision in her situation, knowing that the family history is, not a good one with the alcohol. So going into that, I don't think would have happened if she had had years and years of being put down,
Yes.
never meeting her own expectations, feeling inadequate, not coping, just constantly in a state of anxiety. She couldn't have
This
that
is why there's so many
confidence.
correlations. I mean, I had the same experience.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't. How could you?
Yeah.
How could you at the end of your schooling when you've not had any success in your life?
No.
Now, she won awards. She got up on
Yeah.
year 12 and spoke at her graduation.
Yeah.
She won a big award in Melbourne and went in and received it through the ABC.
Yeah.
These are things that are going to
amazing.
give her such a sense of
Yeah.
achievement.
Of course,
This
we
is a
already have.
child that's got... through no fault of her own, she's got a very low IQ.
Yep.
She's got lifetime of brain damage.
Yes.
So
Yep.
everything is challenging.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
And that's why she gets so tired. She falls asleep all the time,
Yep.
every day,
Yep.
because the brain's working twice as hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, working so much harder.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
yes, the answer to your question is, without a doubt, a child that has had a support through has got to have an easier adulthood. It doesn't mean the problems will go away.
Of course. No.
She will need lifelong support.
Lifelong support. That's it.
She will.
well, going with that, there's some new guidelines that have come through that is the reason why I sort of got in contact with you, because I thought this is perfect timing. What do they talk about? It's a new suite of approved national guidelines to help assess and diagnose fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and that's just been released within the last week or so.
Last Tuesday, the 13th, I think. The previous ones were 2016,
right?
And so it was, we're due for an update of them. I'm just having a look because I've got them here, and they're quite lengthy, but they're quite different to the previous ones. So a lot more now. For the first time, they've included voices of people with lived experience. And as we said before, I don't think you can underestimate the importance of that.
Oh, no.
That really makes it authentic. Is that the right word? It takes away the scientific part. It's just what you were saying before.
Yes.
And I think that's so important. So that's been included this time. I'm just having a look. What else have done? Just the resources. They've made them a lot easier to understand. They've adapted it more, not so much for the medical.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's put out for the medical people.
Yes, of course.
But it's more user friendly now. Right. Families, carers, people can use it now and understand it a lot more easily.
Okay.
So they've made the understanding of the resources easier. They've done match-ups with national health plans. They've put a lot of resources in that will make it easy to find the correct information, because a lot of information out there is not always correct.
Oh, so this is for them to be able to find correct information then? It's just
it's for the user to get it.
For the user,
yes. And just a clear, broader diagnosis of, diagnosing FASD is not an easy thing. So they've made the rules a little bit broader so that it becomes a little bit easier to diagnose.
Right.
So they're not as strict. Previously they were very strict, and you have to meet certain criteria. It's a lengthy process.
Yep.
And it's a whole team of people. You have a psychologist and a speech therapist and an OT and this whole range of, it's a whole body disorder.
Yes,
so you're looking at physical as well as brain-based problems, and having these new guidelines will make it easier for diagnosis.
These guidelines, and I know people overseas are it's not necessarily relevant to them, with the new changes to NDIS as well, they're wanting you to show what you need help from. So specifics about, I need to be able to go to clean my teeth without having someone else take me.
Yes.
Is it new guidelines sort of helping?
Well, they only came out on the other day.
Yeah,
I have not read them right through, but I have been talking to people. I think so. I think that the NDIS, you'll be able to, they'll be more user friendly, so that when you are working out a plan, you can really see that the areas of need for each particular individual. And of course, it presents so differently. Each person with FASD is really unique.
Yeah.
Unlike some other disorders.
Yes.
Some disorders you can almost tick the box.
Yes.
You can't. There's over 400 different characteristics.
Yep.
Of course, you only have some of them. But the main areas of things like the executive functioning skills and the dysmaturity, those sorts of things, if we can make sure that we get support around that, that'll help with the challenges.
I actually had a specific question about this because I was fascinated. Where is it? If a mother drinks when she's breastfeeding, the alcohol crosses into the breast milk, and the concentration of alcohol in her breast milk is the same as that in her bloodstream. I had no idea about that.
No.
At all.
Well, you're not alone.
But does that also, the fact that it's something that goes with alcohol being in the bloodstream, is that why there's so many different outcomes of the disability, that it could be affecting different parts of the body and brain purely because it's in the blood? Does that make sense?
Well, yes, except fetal alcohol spectrum disorder happens pre-birth.
Yes,
so it's prenatal exposure to alcohol.
Yes, yeah.
So when the mother's drinking during the pregnancy, the brain is affected because it goes straight in. It's not. Previously, people thought the placenta filtered it.
Right.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yep.
And, we still have some people say, well, it's my body if I want to drink. But I like to say, well, really, would you put alcohol in your baby's drinking bottle and give it to them?
Yes,
well, of course
that's right.
You would never do
they
that.
Didn't understand that. I guess the analogy that makes sense to my question is that if you put a leaf on a river, it's not always going to go the same direction.
No.
And maybe I'm wondering if that's the same sort of thing.
Well, sort of, except that prenatally, the mother may not drink in those early few months.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And therefore the baby won't be born with the facial features.
Different levels of development are going on, of course.
So the brain, there's a wonderful chart that shows you the development.
Oh, wow.
And the different stages. And when you drank, it will affect that sort of thing. The formation of the face and particularly the mouth is in the very, very first part of the first semester.
Yes.
It's a small window, a matter of days.
Yes.
Now, if you don't drink alcohol during that, you won't have the facial features.
Right.
And previously, many doctors thought if you don't have the facial features, you haven't got FASD.
Oh, okay.
And we know now that if the mother isn't drinking to the later period of the pregnancy, the other problem is that many people say, as soon as I found out, I stopped drinking. Well, we know that 64% of women drink because they don't know they're pregnant. You know, there's this massive people don't know for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
But I've been to a party. They don't have to be alcohol dependent. They just have to be social drinkers. So I've been to my sister's wedding and then I went on to a party and da-da-da. And it's 6 weeks later and I've had 3 or 4 big sessions of alcohol. There's already some damage being done.
Of course.
So that's why the FASD presents differently during that period because
okay.
And not only when they drank, how much they drank, what they drank,
yes.
and the mother's health. You know, the mother's age. There's so many factors. So many.
You're dealing with shame, which someone who's like with us finding out our kids are autistic. A little bit of that past, it's like, did we do something, but it was a little bit sort of airy-fairy. It wasn't specific.
Yeah.
This is very specific. You did an action, and that action had a consequence.
Yeah.
And
that is perhaps one of the biggest barriers against people knowing about FASD.
Yes.
Because the stigma around it is massive.
Yep.
And we at NOFASD say no shame, no blame.
Yes.
We know that no mother would knowingly harm their baby.
Yes. Yep.
This was done through absolute ignorance, not ignorance through their fault, but just unawareness and education. People didn't know that drinking, my whole generation had no idea that drinking alcohol during pregnancy would do any harm. And then there were the doctors that said, drink 1 or 2 drinks a week won't hurt you. Or, the placenta filters it out. No, all of these things are not true.
Yeah.
And so these children are born and then the mother realises that this could have been prevented.
Yes.
And the guilt around that is absolutely overwhelming. And I've spoken to many mothers that just, they go through a terrible time. And, some that don't even want their children diagnosed because they can't live with the guilt. So we need to help them. We need to be saying, this is not just the mother's problem. This is a society problem.
Yes, of course.
We need to support you. We need to say, it's okay.
You're up against the culture. You're up against the culture.
Oh, absolutely.
A
very heavy drinking culture.
Yeah.
That says it's okay to drink. And don't be silly. It's only a drink, But I say, would you let your child run across a busy road? They probably get across, but they may not.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
Yep.
You'd say, no, I won't do it. So it is massive stigma, massive, to the point where people don't want to talk about it. Schools, I've spoken to schools and they say, we won't have that problem at our school. And you know what? You will. You will.
Yeah.
It's a spectrum. You're going to have all degrees of severity.
Yeah, that's it.
You're going to have a lot of kids that are just going to have trouble with keeping on task, packing their school bags, keeping on time.
Yes.
They've only got a few of the symptoms or the characteristics. But it is FASD. That happened because of FASD. And then you've got other children that are so severe they can't even be schooled.
Right.
They stay home and they do homeschooling or whatever because they've got a lot of other issues. And it can be really, really difficult to deal with.
Can you detect this in utero still, or is it not until afterwards?
Afterwards. There's lots of research. There's even some research being done to say that the man's, at the time of conception, if he's been heavily drinking, that there is probably some input from him as far as damage to the child's concerned. So that's an interesting line that they're following. And if you know about the prenatal alcohol exposure, then you see early symptoms of babies really having trouble settling and all those sorts of things, you can pretty well say this will be FASD. But normally it's a little bit older. We sort of look at when they start school and you start seeing some real differences, like a lot of things. It's picked up at preschool or school. And having the history, of course, makes all the difference.
Yep.
All the difference.
I've got a controversial question, so we might or may not leave it. I'll let you decide.
Okay. Yep.
With a knowledge of this, and if the knowledge comes to someone who's been drinking, is pregnant, and then learns about this and decides to go and get an abortion, how does this factor into? Like, is that something that you factor into the communication, the teaching and making people understand what's going on?
Well, we probably don't talk about it in our teaching, but we certainly have those questions on our helpline. So we have a helpline that runs every single day of the year, and we have all sorts of calls. And some of them are from very distressed young women.
Yes.
Who have just found out they're pregnant. I've just been on a cruise.
Yes,
or whatever,
that's it,
and I'm thinking of
what
termination.
Should I do?
I'm thinking of termination. Now, we will obviously not say, "Oh, yes, go ahead." We just counsel them and support them and say, it's your decision. I mean, that whatever you choose is absolutely your decision. How can we help you? We can tell you the facts. There's no guarantee that your child is going to. There's only 1 in 13 of all of these situations where the child is diagnosed with FASD, which is, so the chances are that your child might be absolutely fine. It's like Russian roulette. It really is a really tricky situation.
And
so we don't judge. We don't judge. I mean, that's obviously their decision, and we certainly have those sorts of calls and support them as best we can.
Someone could turn out to be Donald Trump. It's just...
Well, I won't even make comment about that one. I know what I'd rather have happened. But
the wonder of being a parent is...
I know.
Like we're talking about, you change based on the child you get. And
of course you do.
There's no guarantees of anything in particular,
And you can choose which way you want to go. In my case, having a girl come into my life that has got this disorder and others has been the most enriching, growing part of my life. She has contributed to our family in such a positive way. I'm thrilled that she's come into my life. I have never seen her as a burden. I've just seen her as an absolute joy.
I'm the same.
And it's not always easy. It's not always easy.
No, it's not. It's not. But
it's challenging. But you know what? You can look at it. I choose to look at it.
It's not boring.
It's not boring. It's not boring. No, I just think it's fantastic. And the thing about these kids, nearly all of them have got these fabulous personalities where they're really bubbly and outgoing. And unlike some other disorders, they are very positive sort of kids.
Right.
And they're very caring towards younger children and older people. They've got and the other thing is every day is a new day. So you can have a huge row and a carry on the next morning. I wake up and it's a beautiful day and there's bright as buttons, and that's a nice part to live with because they don't seem to carry over grudges. It's extraordinary, and that seems to be a common trait. So that's a nice thing to have.
It is. I mean, I'm similar in that I don't. It doesn't occur to me to hold a grudge. I find it very hard to do that. I'm almost taught how to do that.
That's a very positive thing to.
It is, but also it's a way that you get manipulated by family and other people that they'll take advantage of that. You know what I mean? And when all of a sudden you get to the point where you're like, oh, hang on, this is what am I getting out of this? There's kickback and anger and insults and that sort of stuff. It's an interesting.
Yes. It is interesting. Yes.
I just want to quickly go back to the new guidelines. Yes. Because one thing I did notice was there's a completely separate guideline for Indigenous people.
That's right, and that's one of the new things that they've introduced. And they're doing also, when they do the diagnosis, they have photos.
Yes.
Which they line up next to the faces.
Images as well. Like there was all this artwork that helps.
Oh, yes.
Within context to understand.
Yes, the yarning cubes. Yes.
Oh, my God, it's amazing.
That's a wonderful project that was started off up in Queensland at the university up there. And it's really taken off up in Northern Territory in Queensland, where they're now helping to screen the kids. So they have these cubes. Is this what you're talking about, the cubes?
Yeah.
The yarning cubes? Yeah. And they've got the Indigenous paintings on each part of the cube. And then they can talk the stories through, and it's all done through stories.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful project, and it's really successful. And they'll be able to screen the people as they tell the stories and pick up things, and then they just halve the number of kids that they have to sort of work all the way through the traditional way.
Yep.
And it's enjoyable and easy, and it was such a great,
how much could we learn, which was what we were talking about
Yes.
before. We should all be using this
Yes.
this particular one that the guideline for Indigenous people should be for people in Australia.
Yes.
If we had been brought up to understand the benefits of storytelling and all these things, then we'd be using that tool as well. Because we know that the best way sometimes to learn for a lot of people is through this means.
Totally, yes, absolutely. I know. And it's lovely because on a personal level, I know that, some parts of Australia have a higher percentage of people with FASD.
Yes.
So therefore, we really need to put concentration there about how we're going to work through diagnosis and support.
Yes.
And prevention. Prevention's always got to be considered. And that comes back to education.
The other thing, obviously, that occurred to me when I was reading up on all this was in places with the larger Indigenous community, and that there was this incredible. Was it in this actually? Yeah, it was in the start of the guideline. There was and it was in the Indigenous guideline. There was a sort of a writing that essentially told the story of what it means for an Indigenous person today, given the past, why they can't just get over it. It was the best. It was the best written explanation I think I've ever seen, and I thought it was amazing.
I wish everyone would read that because it really makes you think, it makes you reflect on your own. What do they call it? What's the expression? Invisible prejudice.
Absolutely, that's what I mean.
What's the terminology though? It's those.
Well, it's part of our culture.
Yes,
that we're to forget, we're to ignore.
And I think we all need a better understanding about that.
Yeah, and it just wasn't communicated. It wasn't communicated through that whole process. It's you get to go on SBS or ABC or whatever and learn these amazing things, particularly these incredible understandings of the technologies and the understandings of the way the stars moved and how they stored water and where they were moving and all these things that we have no idea. We completely have no idea, and we're getting to understand and learn about that. How cool is that?
Oh, I know. It's great.
But we're not there yet.
We're a long way from there. We're a long way, but we're sort of
yep.
directing in the right direction.
So the reason that you see this in the prevalence within these communities is because that's how we've made it.
Oh, yes.
We've set this up.
Absolutely. I know, directly.
Yeah.
Because before white people were there, we didn't have this problem. I know.
Yeah.
And that's a very sad reflection on history.
It is.
Really sad. Yes, and the people, particularly the women around Fitzroy Crossing, where they made that stand and said, right, we're going to do something here.
Right, yep.
We are going to stop FASD in our community.
Yes.
We're going to have, only half-strength alcohol in our community.
Wow.
I mean, it was the Aboriginal women that stood up and said that. They requested that.
Yes.
And, they've really made a difference. So it can be done. It can be done.
That has been done a number of times, I think, in different ways. And it's been done in other places as well, in Iceland, when women all went on strike as a whole.
Really?
As a whole country, all the women went on strike, refused to do cooking or cleaning or whatever, and to get the vote.
Yeah.
And that's how they did it. I love this. I wish there was more of this. I wish more of this was happening here. Yeah. And it's always, as far as I can see, it's going to have to be women who do this, who facilitate these changes.
It often is.
Yeah.
Well, the community that I was teaching in, that was a dry community.
Yes.
And I just loved it that, you just have to leave town if you're planning on drinking. You do not stay in this community.
Yes.
There is no alcohol. And you had this sense of being safe there,
Yes, yeah.
It really was, it was the women that policed it.
Yeah. But an ability for someone to get to embrace, spend time, consider their culture without their minds being muddled, and with all that anger and all those other elements that have been brought about generationally, I think all play part of this, of what you're doing.
Totally, yes, yes. It's good that these guidelines are so up to date now, and
that's great.
Once they get, they've just been released, so we need to reflect on it in a year or two when they're really being used.
I think. Are these guidelines something that other countries have?
Oh, yes. Ours were originally based on the Canadian ones.
Right.
Canada was always way ahead with
Yep.
all things FASD.
Yes.
And there are, and even, now I need to get my facts right, but one part of America, I think, where it's mandatory in schools for all teachers to have training in FASD, training and awareness. Now,
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to say that would happen. So they do, like we have our first aid training and our acid training and our, anaphylactic training. You also have FASD training. Now, if only that could happen in Australia, that would be wonderful.
Why couldn't there be neurodivergent training then? So it's a catch-all sort of
course. Because
day.
I think that's often covered. As I said, I have been to so much professional development around all that.
Yeah.
And FASD, well, yes, it could be general. It should be, but I think it's already there. This was like a mandatory thing that you had to.
Yes,
all teachers. Yeah. Anyway, but Canada has always been way ahead, and now we've caught up.
Okay.
We're doing very well. We stand in the world with our
that's great
support and our knowledge and our education and our, all the things that we do for those living with FASD and their families, because it's not an easy journey.
At least people who are listening to this overseas. I mean, it's literally a matter of Googling, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being able to do this. It's not like we have to list off places, and that's easy. That's something that they can actually find out. Right. And also the understanding of what it is not going to change either. It's just this is what it is.
Yeah. And this is a worldwide problem. Yeah. I mean, you think about it. The rates in Ireland, I think, are higher than ours in Australia, and we're between 2 and 5% of the population. In Australia, so you can imagine in countries where really drinking.
Ireland came to.
I think Ireland's quite high, but and so yes, there's FASD groups all around the world, and Canada was leading, but we're right up there now, and people are looking towards us for our input and what we've got to offer. So it's wonderful. In my last 10 years, I've been involved.
Yep.
I've seen such amazing growth, and a lot of it's got to do with our organisation. I have to claim.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. I feel very proud of that.
There's so obviously there's more calls for support services across the country, and the person what I think I was reading in the article was that health practitioners should be trained in how to use these guidelines as well. So you've got to get this out to these people, and that's what I'm assuming what you're pushing for.
Yes, yes, and we do. We run online webinars and things for specifically for doctors or specifically for OTs or sort of really focused in on different areas. But there's only a few of us, and it's a big country, and we've got a long way to go. But we're getting there. The word's getting out.
There is, okay.
The government's supporting us, and I don't know whether you've ever seen the advertisements on television. They're out.
I have. Yes, they're good.
Yes.
Yep.
Every moment matters.
Yes.
The FAIR, which is the research for alcohol. Mm-hmm. They together with us, funding from the government, we are able to do those advertisements, and they made a difference. People would say, "Oh yes, I saw that on TV."
Yeah. Just bringing that idea of obviously not going on a binge, sort of not aware, but for at least for people who are considering getting pregnant.
Absolutely.
That's something at least that's a bit clearer now to say, well, even when we're trying, this is not something we need to be mindful of this.
More and more people are aware
that
you don't drink while you're pregnant.
Have you got into the whole, TikTok and things like this? Like when you look at, even when you look at the recent elections that were happening over here, the Labor were very good when they were starting to utilise their TikTok and Instagrams and all these sorts of things to get to.
We've just been recently talking about that. The bottom line is funding. To be honest, funding. We are a non-for-profit, so we do a lot of work voluntarily, and
I would suggest it be more to getting the right person to be able to make them, because it's not that hard to make.
We've actually just got some people on board just recently.
A couple of hipsters.
Looking at that direction. Probably not my age group. Definitely not my age group. But certainly getting some
my
people.
My daughter could, she keeps saying she's going to help me with mine, but she doesn't. But she could. Yeah. She could whip these things up in 10 minutes and, you know what I mean? And that's...
I've got a brilliant video, I'll send it to you, made by a school student to educate her classmates.
Exactly.
It's one of her Year 12 assignments.
Yep.
And she contacted me just because she wanted people to interview. And it's quite outstanding, so,
Oh, my God.
I know. Yeah. It's endless what we can do and what we have to do.
Yes, yep.
But when you're reaching out to, as I said, the health sector, the education sector, the justice sector...
So many.
It's not just one area.
Yep.
I mean, that's...
Yep.
The family, all the area of preventive,
Yes.
there needs to be a lot of advertising about to the young people about not drinking while you're pregnant. Then we need to put in support for the families. We've got massive, and that's a lot of our helplines around that. And our support groups, we run support groups at night online, or during the day too, for all these families and foster parents and birth parents who are just struggling with these and needing that connection with other people who are going through the same thing. So a lot of work to do, Dan, a lot.
So what if there's someone listening to this, who probably maybe have been diagnosed autistic or ADHD, whatever, that it's brought up some memories and some of their own family life and they're starting to think, what do you suggest they do about that?
We actually, and perhaps we should have started this off with this, remind people that this can often really trigger some sensitive things in families. And this does just the whole sort of, hold on, this could be me, this could be my family, I know. So we do have to be aware that these sorts of talks can trigger a lot. If somebody thinks, hold on, and this has definitely happened. Hold on, I think maybe I've got FASD.
Yes.
I mean, one of our beautiful girls that is connected with us was 60 years old.
Yeah.
And she thought, I've got FASD. So she contacted us. We helped her organise a diagnosis. She was diagnosed at 60 years of age.
Yeah.
And as she is amazing, she's writing a book about it. She says, this has changed my life.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, I understand why life's been so hard.
Yes.
It's just, and that... some people don't like labels, but I just think they're like a key that opens doors. Yep. Because once you know, then you've got tools to work with.
Yeah, you've got your head in the sand, either your head in the sand or just completely ignorant of the fact that there's something called this.
Yes.
And that knowledge can give you power.
A huge power.
Yeah.
And also relieve you from that. It wasn't my fault.
It's my fault.
It wasn't my fault that I was always struggling at school, that I was always getting into trouble, that I always left my book at home, that as an adult I was struggling, and this is the other area as adults, if they're not supported.
Yes.
These people that end up on the street.
Yes.
The justice system.
In justice system, we didn't even get into the fact that obviously it's going to be huge.
Yes, very high percentage of people incarcerated have got FASD.
Oh my God.
And it's not their fault they end up in that situation.
How do you feel about currently they're pushing for treating them as adults? So basically, if they adult crime, do the adult time.
No, I have huge issues around that. I really do, and I'm not excusing that. People have been, furious and upset, and just lives are ruined because of the crime. But we need to handle these children differently, and they are children often.
So who's handling them? So we've got a situation with a teenager who's just nicked a car and crashed it and so forth, and so they're in the system now. At what point is someone going to be communicating with them?
Well, depending on...
To determine whether FASD is part of this.
Depending on which state they're in.
Right.
Some of them are screened, some of them are not.
They are. Some actually are.
Yes, in WA they are,
okay.
Yes. Some of them are screened, and then, of course, if they're screened, then things should start changing. Because if you're... as I said again, if you're blind, all of a sudden everything's going to change to suit your needs.
Yeah.
So why are you not doing this for somebody else who's got a disability?
But I never hear this about anything as far as why is the behaviour, why has this occurred, why have they gone to this point?
There are areas and there are sectors that are looking into it. I know I can remember reading an interesting article up in Queensland that they were really diving down into what was behind it all and how can we stop it before it starts.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, if we stopped drinking during pregnancy, that would certainly help. That would be a great start.
Yeah.
But, my solution is let's build facilities that are going to address these kids' needs, not jails, but support areas where they can be supported in a really compassionate, understanding way and still keep them off the streets and have this really intense... I hate to think of the cost of these things, and the government's not probably going to pay for it, but,
It's going to save money.
It's going to save money.
It will save money, not cost money.
I just feel like once you're in that justice system, it's just a downward spiral straight off.
It literally is a... Well, not literally, sorry. figuratively, like a well-made dam that
Absolutely.
won't bust.
Absolutely. I know.
You know, if you build the dam properly.
But if you were screened and then they said, right, these people over here have got FASD,
Yeah.
let's get them out onto this farm and they can work. They're still off the streets. We're working with them. We're giving them psychological help. We're giving them physical work to do that they enjoy. We're giving them a sense of self-esteem and opportunities for success. And let's do that for their time off the street.
And to learn their specific needs.
Yes,
and
and
how
they might have to stay there for 3 years, and that's their time away from being dangerous to other people.
Yeah.
And then, during that period, they've actually improved a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's how I would handle it if I had to say. Locking people up is... How could you ever sort of think that that's going to work?
Well, it's what we're going through at the moment throughout the world. I think it's becoming a bit more... it seems to be more out in the open, is that we seem to have a severe lack of kindness, and using kindness as the main tool for building a culture and building a country and all these sort of things, a family.
Yes.
The concept of kindness is
just be kind. That's
being pushed to the side.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And as us go back to that, all behaviour is functional.
Yeah.
These kids are not breaking into houses and stealing cars and doing all these things just for the fun of it. There is a deep underlying problems there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because kids that are loved and supported don't do things like that.
Yeah, and being kind doesn't mean being weak or a hippie or whatever.
No, 100%
at
agree.
all.
Yeah, yeah. But let's look at a better way of sort of helping them through it. Still protecting society from them because they haven't yet learnt how to cope, and teaching them bit by bit, and anyway.
It's awesome. A lot of this sort of awareness is, I think that's why we're doing what we're doing. I do that. It's for my podcast. Is that it's just bringing about. I hate saying bringing about awareness. It's so cliche, but unfortunately, it's true.
It's true. It is true. It's true. No. I think it's
a conversation.
It's a good term. Yes. And I look at the little school where my girl went and say, well, yes, they were doing the right thing.
Yeah. And they changed.
And she finished year 12.
Yeah.
And she loved school.
Yeah.
And she would not have wanted to stay at a school that didn't do that for her.
No.
So,
My kids either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we'll fight for them, advocate for them. And I think you've just got to step in and say it in a non-aggressive way, but how about thinking in a different...
Yes.
Think differently. Let's look at it from...
All of us.
All of us.
Now, is there any other... anything you want to plug as far as... Is there anything else you want to do? Do you think we missed on talking about? Obviously, I'll put links and so forth.
Yes,
and the notes and everything.
I think that sort of understanding, I've got these 5 out of 10 pregnancies are unexpected. So that's unplanned pregnancies. That's half.
I can put that at the start in the intro.
50% of pregnancies are unplanned. So when you know that means that you could be very likely, getting yourself, you're at your parties, you end up getting pregnant, and this is where we have a lot of the problems.
Okay.
So I think that's something that we have to bring to awareness. I might give you this sheet, actually. It's got a lot of the data. And 64% of women reported consuming alcohol before they knew they were pregnant.
Yes.
And that's one of our biggest problems.
This comes down to education of how to protect yourself as far as,
getting pregnant.
Getting pregnant, that's a different thing again we didn't even talk about. Yeah. Is that as long as we all are and particularly in schools, these kids need to learn from age, I think, maybe year 7.
Yes.
Need to learn to understand what a condom is, what all these things are doing, why you need to use them. It doesn't mean you're going to use them.
No.
This is the fear. It's all this constant bullshit about...
But if you're planning a pregnancy or you think you could get pregnant,
yes,
then you don't drink alcohol. Simple as that.
Well, I also think if you're going out to party...
do
use whatever is available to you to prevent
pregnancy,
to double prevent pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Don't rely on your reasoning skills at the time because it's not going to be there. So pop in a prophylactic that's going to prevent this from happening, and don't rely on the other person. And
that should be in all schools in their health program. I mean, this should be part of every teenager's curriculum.
Yeah.
Really, this sort of thing. So,
Absolutely should be.
yes.
And I'll probably won't put this bit in, but just the understanding of porn and how this idea of what porn is not reality. You don't have to act like that because it is acting. It's acting a scenario or whatever. But these kids aren't being told that, so that's what they're doing.
I know, and the fallout from that would take another whole podcast to
Absolutely.
discuss, because that is frightening. That is frightening.
It really is scary. I talk openly about this to my kids.
Yes,
openly.
I do with our girl, and it's been. I think just having that openness has helped her so much.
Yes,
because she's on her own up there
Yep.
in the territory, and I'm not there. I'm on the end of the phone.
Yeah.
But she has to be the one that says,
That's right.
I'm looking after myself. I've got FASD, therefore I can't do this, or therefore I don't understand how to do that.
Yeah.
And to be, saying, well, my mum didn't know, and we taught her from a very early stage. She loved you. She just didn't know that this was going to cause any problems.
I still think AI.
Yes, I think
even with the technology today, in those situations when I can say, hey, to the speaker over there, and it's going to hear me.
Yeah.
If it hears a conversation that's taking place where someone's influencing the person with FASD, then that tool could also come out as far as a phone call or whatever. Like just ping and say, "I'm hearing this conversation. This is
we've got to remind
you need to be very careful." Imagine,
yeah.
It's something we could do right now.
I think that
with $3 billion.
Right, that's your next project.
That's the next project. Well, it'd be interesting to make it like a call out to people who build apps for fun.
I know. It's just happening so quickly that we've got to make sure that it's all positive. But the positive parts are just so encouraging.
Oh my God, they're so useful.
I mean, especially in medicine and what they're finding out there and how they're diagnosing all sorts of things now through AI.
Oh, thanks so much. I always forget a thing when I stop recording. I haven't said thank you so much for coming here.
My absolute
and
pleasure.
Chatting to me. And
I don't know whether we've really covered what FASD is, but I think
I will at the start.
Okay.
And thank you everyone for listening to this episode. And please do all the usual things. Pass along, Patreon, all that stuff. And we will see you on the next episode.
All right.
I will at the start. So I'll break down and I'll do it with little background sounds and all that sort of stuff, and put all that information in, including the warning that we talked about. I'll be putting that at the start as well.
Because I've been talking and people have just burst into tears and suddenly thought, this is my child and I drank during my pregnancy. And it's just like, that's when they've suddenly realised in the middle of the talk.
I normally do that, so thanks for sort of pointing that out.